Ever wonder who keeps your gas stove working? It's not magic. It's gas plant operators, and they're in high demand.
Yeah, they are.
You've sent us a stack of info on this career path, guides, interview prep, even AI tools from RoleCatcher.
Lots to dig into.
So buckle up. Today, we're extracting the gold D, not just what this job asks, but what it takes to excel, and if it's right for you.
What's fascinating is how this field, it blends that hands-on work with cutting-edge tech. It's not just about turning wrenches anymore. You're essentially the air traffic controller of gas pipelines,
Okay, I love that analogy.
ensuring seamless distribution to homes and businesses.
So we're talking monitoring pressure, controlling flow, but the guide also mentions ensuring compliance with scheduling and demand, right?
Mm.
Sounds like there's a logistical brain needed too.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the responsibility. The source mentions strict safety protocols and a potentially hazardous work environment, because you're dealing with a substance that demands respect. This isn't just a job. It's impacting people's lives directly.
You're making this sound way more impactful than just like pushing buttons in a plant, which I get some people picture.
Right.
It reminds me of that phrase the guide uses, high level of responsibility. But what they mean is you're the one they call at 3 a.m. when there's a problem, right?
Precisely. And that kind of pressure isn't for everyone, but it also means your skills are in demand. The source mentions opportunities for travel or relocation due to industry growth.
So you could end up with a job that's in high demand. A&D lets you see the world. Not bad. Though I'm guessing it's not all globe-trotting and high fives.
Mm-hmm.
What does the guide say about the not-so-glamorous side?
Long hours, shift work, being on call. This isn't your typical 9 to 5, but it's that crucial 24/7 aspect that keeps the lights on literally for everyone else.
Okay, let's unpack this cutting-edge technology the source keeps highlighting. What does that actually look like on the job?
Imagine this. You're not just operating machinery. You're monitoring automated systems, troubleshooting with software, maybe even using predictive tools to prevent problems before they occur. Think computer-based control systems and data analysis.
Whoa, predictive tools. So like the system tells you, hey, valve 3 is about to go haywire. Better check it out. That's wild.
Exactly. And it means the skills needed are evolving. The guide puts mechanical knowledge at 79% importance, but computer skills and data interpretation are becoming just as vital.
It's like being a tech-savvy troubleshooter with a side of pipeline pressure management.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening who loves tinkering with gadgets and keeping up with the latest tech, this could be right up their alley. But if they're the type who hates change and just wants routine, maybe not so much.
That's a great point. Which brings us to the question of fit. Is this career path really right for you? Let's look at those career stages the source outlines, because they don't just list tasks, they paint a picture of the kind of person you'd become.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, because instead of just bullet points, the guide gives you an example of what a junior gas processing plant operator might say about themselves. Like, I have gained hands-on experience in operating and maintaining distribution equipment, ensuring the correct pressure is maintained on gas pipelines. It's almost like a mini interview in itself.
And the language gets more sophisticated as you climb the ladder. A gas processing plant operator might say they excel in monitoring and ensure seamless gas distribution. It's a subtle shift from assisting to independently managing.
And then, boom,
Right.
you hit senior gas processing plant operator. And it's all about leading and supervising a team, developing and implementing preventative maintenance programs. It's like leveling up in a video game.
The game of gas distribution, apparently.
Yeah.
But you're right, this highlights a path to leadership. If you thrive on taking charge and mentoring, that's built in.
And for someone who just wants to master the technical side and maybe work independently, that's something to consider too. Speaking of which, how do you break into this field? The source mentions apprenticeships. Is that the only way?
Not necessarily. It also mentions seeking entry-level positions, which implies there might be other ways in. Maybe a technician role assisting more experienced operators. That could be a foot in the door.
And speaking of doors, let's talk job interviews. The source provides 10 whole interview questions. Talk about information overload.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where our deep dive comes in. We're not just throwing questions at you. We're focusing on the ones that reveal what it really takes to excel.
All right, hit me with the doozy. What's one question that really reveals if someone's got the right stuff for this?
Okay, here's one that might trip up even those who prepped for the obvious. How do you stay up to date with industry trends and best practices?
Ooh, that's a good one. Because anyone can say, I read industry journals, But this gets at your commitment to continuous learning, right?
Exactly. It's about being proactive, not reactive. Do you seek out conferences, experiment with new tech on your own? That's what sets apart those truly dedicated to the field.
It's like the source says, the gas distribution industry is expected to continue to grow, so you really need to stand out. Which makes me think of another question from the source. Describe your experience with computer-based control systems. This goes beyond listing software, right?
Absolutely. Don't just tell them you're familiar with SCADA systems. Give them a real-world example.
Okay.
Maybe you use data from the control system to identify a recurring pressure drop, which led to a proactive maintenance schedule that prevented a major issue.
Okay, so instead of saying, I can use this software, it's more like, I use this software to make this happen, which saves time and money. Show, don't tell.
Precisely. And it highlights how tech skills are essential for this role.
Which reminds me, we've got to talk about RoleCatcher. It's mentioned all over these sources. Their AI resume builder analyzes job descriptions and helps you optimize your resume for those sneaky AI filters companies use now.
It's a great example of how technology is changing the job market on both sides.
For sure. Okay, last interview question before we move on. How do you manage a team of operators? This one's for those aiming for leadership, right?
Definitely. And it's a question that requires careful thought. You can't just rattle off like generic management buzzwords. The gas industry has unique challenges. High pressure situations, stringent safety protocols, 204/7 operation.
So how do you even begin to answer that effectively? What would impress you?
I'd want to hear about a time you navigated a conflict within your team, maybe differing opinions on a maintenance issue. How did you make sure everyone felt heard while prioritizing safety and efficiency? Or how you identified a training gap and addressed it to improve everyone's performance?
It's like those career stages we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
As you move from junior to senior operator, those leadership skills become increasingly important.
Exactly. And it highlights another aspect of this career path. It's not just about what you KNOW, but how you apply that knowledge in a team setting.
Okay, so we've talked about the job itself, the tech involved, how to nail the interview. But this deep dive is also about figuring out if this is the right path for you. Any final thoughts on that?
It's all about finding that balance, between what interests you and what the field demands. Do you enjoy problem solving, staying ahead of the tech curve, and knowing your work has a direct impact on people's lives? Those are all hallmarks of a successful gas plant operator.
It's like we said at the beginning, not magic, but pretty darn close. This deep dive has given us a whole new appreciation for what these folks do. But before we wrap up, there was one more thing from the source material that caught my eye. It mentions career paths beyond plant operations, things like pipeline engineering and energy management. What's that all about?
It's interesting, right? It's like taking your gas plant operator expertise and branching out. Pipeline engineering involves designing and maintaining those massive networks that transport the gas, while energy management is about optimizing energy use and exploring alternative sources.
So someone could start in a gas plant, gain experience, then maybe move into a role where they're using that knowledge to, say, advise on transitioning to cleaner energy.
Exactly. The source material doesn't go into a ton of detail, but it definitely opens up the possibilities. This career path could be a stepping stone to a whole range of opportunities within the energy sector.
Okay, so to our listener, if this deep dive has your gears turning, don't limit yourself. Start with that gas plant operator path. But who knows where it could lead? Maybe you will be the one designing the next generation of energy solutions.
And remember, we're here to help you navigate those decisions. RoleCatcher, those interview questions, even just understanding the day-to-day realities. Knowledge is power.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh,
So to our listener, keep that curiosity burning, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep. We'll be back next time with another career deep dive. Until then, stay curious.